Okay, hi everyone, welcome back to this video series on introductions to firewalls, chapter 15, configuring personal firewalls, zone alarm, black ice, and Norton personal firewall. Just a few years ago, only companies and organizations had to worry about hackers attempting to break into their computer network. Terms like security control, access control policies, intrusion detection, and audit policies only seemed appropriate in corporate lingo. They weren't something home users needed to worry about. Hackers pretty much ignored home users and small offices. The landscape is changing rapidly, though. Home computers are no longer safe when they are connected to the internet. Hackers are getting more and more interested in getting into your home computer. In this chapter, we look at how you can use personal firewalls to protect your computers when they're connected to the internet. We specifically look at three personal firewalls: Zone Alarm, Networks ICE, Black Ice Defender, and Semantics Norton Personal Firewall. How computers are at risk. Not too long ago, when an uncle at a birthday party would ask you how to be safe on the internet, suggesting a decent antivirus program was a good answer. Depending on how much you like your uncle, it can still be a sufficient answer, but the truth is that viruses are no longer the only threat to home computers. Hackers have gained interest in your home computer for several reasons. We consider said reasons in the following sections. Home computers have changed. First of all, your computer has become more powerful over time. Don't be surprised if your new multimedia home computer that's just sitting on your desk has more processing power than all the computers aboard the first space shuttle combined. Great heat resistance, boot absorbance, and not being affected by weightlessness are not features you look for when you shop for a new computer, but you get the picture. Here are some of the things that make your current home computer attractive to bad elements on the internet. Always connected. This is perhaps the number one reason why home computers can be broken into in the first place. If you just dial into your ISP to get your email and then disconnect a couple of minutes later, an outsider doesn't have much time to stage an attack. However, if you use new broadband techniques such as a cable connection or DSL, your computer is connected to the internet 24 hours a day. Not only is the connection on all the time, but the broadband techniques let you use the same IP address for a long period of time. Too, if a single hacker even finds out that you have interesting files on your computer, such as a collection of Mozart symphonies orchestrated for two flutes in MP3 format, just a simple message in one of the underground Mozart Rule 3Z newsgroups will mobilize a lot of other flute-loving hackers to flock to your computer for weeks. Powerful operating system. Every new version of Windows has added features and more powerful networking capabilities. This also increases the options for hackers to utilize your computer. Current versions of Windows think nothing of scheduling tasks automatically, checking for online activity, or even managing and routing between several types of dial-up and VPN connections at the same time. Although these features are great aids to getting a lot of work done or starting a chat session, the second your friends get online, they also enable the hacker to do all kinds of tricks with your computer that weren't possible before. Inadequate protection. Businesses are starting to understand that they should install firewalls and think about security. This shifts attention to less protected computers automatically, especially for Sunday afternoon hackers. Breaking into a neighbor's computer 2 blocks down the road on the same cable segment is easier than trying to penetrate a well-implemented corporate firewall. In much the same way, your home is at risk when you're the only one on the street who doesn't lock his back door at night. Have hackers have changed. The hacker community has changed at least as much as your home computer has. The interests and capabilities of hackers have shifted. Here are some reasons why hackers have an interest in your home computer. Hazard by numbers. A common misconception is that you're safe because of the sheer number of home computers that are connected to the internet. Well, the argument works the other way around too. The internet also has increased the number of people who use the relative shelter of being anonymous to hack other computers. Hackers websites offer easy to follow how to hack tutorials that give anyone the skills needed to start hacking. Bots and scripts. Although it sounds like an 80s sitcom about two characters who get in constant trouble with the police, we're actually talking about automation tools that hackers can use. Bots, an abbreviation for robots, are software programs that automatically monitor known vulnerabilities. When a hacker comes home from school or whatever he does when he is not hacking, he finds a neatly printed bot report that lists all the computers vulnerable for certain attacks. An even more helpful bot may have planted malicious backdoor programs on those home computers already. Scripts are programs that hackers use to utilize an earlier planted backdoor or do whatever tasks need to be done to find and get access to a vulnerable computer. Staging DDoS attacks, a relatively new phenomenon in staging attacks on well-known public websites such as eBay and Amazon.com, or by overwhelming those sites with data. A distributed denial of service attack, DDoS attack like this has an effect if enough data can be sent to the same website during the same time frame. One way to achieve the needed amount of data is to plant a DDoS agent on various home computers and let them send data at a present time. The hacker wouldn't be interested in the content of the files on your hard drive per se, but only in using your home computer as one of his soldiers, stealing CPU cycles. This is a fairly new concept. Current home computers are so powerful that you probably wouldn't even notice that some other processes were running. Two hackers want to use the combined CPU power of many home computers to do CPU intensive processing. Why would they need that processing power, you ask? Well, they're certainly not crunching a way to find a new medicine for some disease, although would be a very noble thing to do. Maybe we'll post a suggestion this on a friendly Mozart Rules 3Z board, and they aren't doing nuclear explosion research. Instead, some groups use this to earn higher marks at the various combined CPU contests on the internet. Some of these are just harmless secret messaging cracking contests that earn you $1,200 if you are the first to decode the secret message you won. Personal information. Don't think you have nothing of value on your computer. Of course, hackers may be interested in your card details and use them for fraudulent charges. However, a scam was recently discovered in which hackers were only interested in obtaining your ISP dial-in account and password. This group, or Legion as they like to call themselves, use a different dial-in account every day to minimize the risk of being traced. Part of their daily task was to scan home computers to stock their supply of dial-in accounts to use for a day. Anti-hacking laws. In some countries, anti-hacking laws have toughened dramatically in the last few years. Maybe those tough new laws, as legislators want you to believe, if they do, hackers wouldn't dare touch businesses that are more likely to press charges against them, but instead practice their skills on lower profile objects such as home computers. You have changed. Don't blame everything on hackers. You have a personal interest in protecting your home computer as well, just as you're careful with your new car. A home computer is getting more and more important too. Here are some of the reasons to protect your home computer. Use of interactive tools. Many current applications are used to connect to other users or computers on the internet. This ranges from chat to ICQ-style communication programs to interactive internet games to programs that automate peer-to-peer exchange of files such as Italian recipes, just to name some of the less controversial uses. While you are happily fragging your game opponent on the other side of the world, your computer may get fragged by using the same interactive applications too. Use of internet-aware applications. Software vendors realize the potential of the internet. Some applications may even contain special spy modules that call home every now and then to report on you. You may not like this and you may not even be aware of this. A personal firewall can alert you that a particular application is attempting to access the internet, such as a warning may at least make you realize which programs on your computer initiate a connection. The same approach can be used to detect a Trojan horse or backdoor programs as well. Financial transactions. Your credit card isn't the only thing that needs to be protected. When you use your computer to handle your finances, do online shopping, or even use internet banking, the local files on your hard drive need to be protected against access from the outside. Corporate connection. You can use your home computer to dial into the office through a virtual private network VPN connection, although the data may travel securely encrypted over the internet to the company's computers. The open endpoint of such a VPN tunnel is your home computer. If hackers can break into your computer from the internet, they may use it as a way to get right into the company network. We know that this list of long reasons for using personal firewalls makes us sound like antivirus program salesfolk. But the fact of the matter is that people aren't paranoid enough about their connection to the internet. The chance of suffering from some type of internet hack is rising, especially when you connect to the internet using cable or DSL. Most people are genuinely surprised when they discover that their newly installed personal firewall reports that their home computer is getting scanned or probed from the internet multiple times per day. Features of a personal firewall. Personal firewalls are not comparable to enterprise firewalls. Both firewall categories have different purposes and therefore support different features. Unlike applications such as Microsoft Word, where business users and home users alike use the same program, firewalls come in two distinct classes. In this section, we'll look at why you can't use an enterprise firewall at home and what the ideal personal firewall looks like. Enterprise firewall versus personal firewalls. Cost is a big issue when it comes to using an enterprise firewall at home. A normal enterprise class firewall can easily cost several thousands of dollars. Some even use a licensing model that charges thousands of dollars per individual CPU that you may have in the firewall computer. If the price isn't enough to dissuade you, personal firewalls have a lot of features that are very unlikely to be used in a home environment. Automatic synchronization of the configuration of several firewalls, automatically load sharing on the internet connection among multiple firewalls, division of the administrative burden, central administrators to define the overall security policy settings, and branch office administrators who can adjust only a smaller subset of the policy settings. Support for various techniques for user authentication to validate access for users on the internal network from a list on another computer. On the other hand, personal firewalls require features that most expensive firewalls lack. The configuration model of a personal firewall concentrates on the fact that the person who uses the firewall is also the person who configures the firewall when a new protocol is used for the first time. A personal firewall may ask the user to confirm that the traffic is allowed. It really is a personal firewall. It's very likely that an enterprise firewall can't be installed on a desktop operating system that you use at home. For example, the firewall may require Windows NT 4 Server or Windows 2000 Server. It just won't run on Windows 98, Windows ME, or Windows XP computer. You aren't supposed to work on the computer that has an enterprise firewall installed on it. However, in a home situation, it is very common to work on the computer that is connected to the internet. Some packet filter rules that you define on an enterprise firewall may not work unless you access the internet from another computer behind the firewall. The enterprise firewall is truly a dedicated computer. If you aren't sure which application uses which protocols to access the internet, personal firewalls may help you with a special learning mode. In this mode, the firewall automatically adds and corrects rules to the rule when you attempt to use the specific application. This is a feature that you won't find on an enterprise firewall because all the rules are supposed to be described in some sort of firewall policy document. To be honest, not all personal firewalls are all that secure, to put it mildly. Some are even outright insecure and only give you a false sense of security, which may be even worse than no firewall at all. Some only start when you log onto your computer. This means that depending on the kind of internet connection you have, you may be exposed to the internet before you log on. The ideal personal firewall would have the following features: inexpensive. Of course, the cheaper is better. Several personal firewalls are free for personal use and charging something like $40 for business use. Although downloading for free personal firewalls and using them for a test run is easy, be sure to look at ones that aren't free as well. Easy to install and use. The installation of the firewall software and the use of the firewall shouldn't be overly complicated. The personal firewall should definitely contain good documentation on how to use it. We used to say that it's also important that the documentation not only tell you what the various firewall settings are, but also explain some of the concepts behind firewall security. This makes it much easier to understand the alerts you may receive or the severity of dedicated scans. But of course, because you already bought this fine for Dummies books, we don't have to say that again. Easy to configure. Nobody wants to read through an 800-page manual before the web browser can be configured to access the internet, and you shouldn't have to draft several pages of firewall policy either before you can distill what network traffic should be allowed in and what should be allowed out. If after 3 days of continuous work in the attic, you finally come down to the living room to ask your husband what he thinks about the firewall security policy you created, he will definitely think that you lost your mind. Many personal firewalls have some sort of learning mode in which they offer to add rules for the application that was just blocked at the firewall. Monitor incoming traffic. The firewall should look at all network packets coming from the internet and allow only those network packets received in response to requests you sent out to the internet, those packets for which you have configured rules at the firewall, monitor outgoing traffic. Personal firewalls have their own special version of scanning for outgoing traffic, whereas enterprise firewalls define allowed outgoing traffic in terms of protocol, user day, time of day, or addressed website. Personal firewalls are often application aware. They only allow outgoing traffic for applications that are on a trusted application list. This is an important measure if you want to prevent Trojan horse programs from communicating with the internet. It also stops so-called hardware or spyware programs that connect to their home server on the internet to relay a list of sites that you have visited or something similarly inappropriate. If you don't put them on the trusted applications list, that is, an antivirus program usually doesn't scan for these adware programs. How to be safe on the internet. You can be safe when you connect to the internet. Here are a few precautions you should take. Install the latest patches and updates for your operations, especially if those updates are security related. And they usually are. If you use Windows, go to the Windows update.microsoft.com to make sure you have the latest updates. Disable or unbind file and printer sharing component or server service in Windows NT 4.0. If you don't use that function, select and install a good personal firewall. And if you are still reading the chapter at this point, I suspect you will do that. Select and install a good antivirus program. Some personal firewalls have this function built in, but we prefer to keep the firewall function and the antivirus function separate. Be careful with files that you download and with attachments in email messages. These could be stealth Trojan horse programs to trick you into opening up access to your computer, or they could be plain malicious viruses. Never reveal your computer password or ISP password to anything or anyone. Never use the same password for two different purposes. Ideally, you should use different passwords for every program or website that needs it. If that's too much to remember, write down your password somewhere on a piece of paper that you keep hidden. If that's still too much work, use at least 4 totally different passwords. Password to log onto your computer, password to log onto your ISP, password to use applications that want a password to encrypt stuff such as Word, to encrypt a document in WinZip, to encrypt files in the WinZip, password to use on websites that ask for a password. Even if you use a personal firewall and have an always connected subscription for a cable connection or a DSL line to the internet, consider switching off the computer when you're away for long periods of time. Make a backup of important data files. That's another good answer to give to your uncle at that birthday party. So I'm going to leave it here this evening for this video. If you like listening, please consider like, sharing and subscribing. Thank you.